The Grand Assembly Hall floated in space like a giant crystal, reflecting the light of distant stars. Inside, representatives from hundreds of alien species gathered to watch what they believed would be a simple ceremony. General Tae Sung stood alone on the circular platform, his military uniform pressed and perfect. He had come here expecting honor. Instead, he was about to face the worst moment of his life. High Chancellor Vex clicked his mandibles together, the sound echoing through the vast chamber. The insectoid alien's compound eyes gleamed with something that looked almost like pleasure. Behind him, 8 other council members sat on elevated thrones, looking down at the human general like judges at a trial. "We have gathered here today," Vex announced. His voice translated into 1,000 languages simultaneously to address a grave matter. General Tae Sung of Earth stands accused of war crimes during the Outer Rim campaigns. Tae Sung felt his stomach drop. This was wrong. Completely wrong. He had come here to receive a medal for protecting refugee convoys, not to face accusations. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words that came out were garbled nonsense. His translator had stopped working. Massive holographic screens appeared around the chamber, showing footage that made Tae Sung's blood run cold. Human warships fired on civilian transports. Explosions tore through colony ships. Children screamed in the vacuum of space. The footage was labeled with his authorization codes, his command signature, his voice giving orders to fire, but he had never given those orders. He had never seen these attacks. The footage was fake, but perfect. So perfect that even he almost believed it for a moment. "You see," Vex continued, gesturing at the screens with one of his 6 limbs, "the evidence is clear. Humanity claims to be peaceful, but their actions tell a different story. This general authorized the slaughter of innocents. 3,000 lives ended because of his orders." Tae Sung tried again to speak, to defend himself, but his translator produced only static. Several council members smiled at this. They had planned it all perfectly. The humans stood there, helpless, as species after species took turns condemning him. Councillor Thelvos of the Morphians rose from his water-filled throne. His tentacles waving in what Tae Sung had learned was a gesture of disgust. Humanity was granted council membership too soon. They are not ready. They are violent, primitive creatures who should never have been allowed to join our enlightened society. The words stung more than Tae Sung expected. Humanity had worked so hard to earn their place among the stars. 15 years of proving themselves, of following every rule, of accepting treatment that no other species would tolerate. And now it was all being torn away based on lies. The Luminarch representative, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell, spoke next. Its voice sounded like music, but the words were harsh. "I propose we revoke Earth's membership. Furthermore, humanity should be placed under protectorate status. They need guidance from wiser species before they can be trusted with independence." Protectorate status. The words made Tae Sung's hands clench into fists. That meant Earth would become a vassal state, controlled by the Council, stripped of sovereignty. Billions of humans reduced to second-class citizens in their own star system. One by one, the Council members voted. The result was unanimous. General Tae Sung was stripped of his rank, his honors, his medals. Humanity's Council membership was suspended pending a review that everyone knew would result in permanent expulsion and subjugation. Guards moved forward to escort Tae Sung away. The general stood straight, refusing to show weakness even as his world collapsed around him. As he reached the exit, his translator suddenly flickered back to life. Perhaps someone had made a mistake, or perhaps the council wanted him to speak so they could mock his protests. Tae Sung stopped walking. He turned to face the council one last time. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear, each word carefully chosen. "You will regret this day." The chamber erupted in laughter. Vex's clicking mandibles created a sound like breaking glass. Thelvos' tentacles writhed with amusement. Even the smaller species, those who had suffered under council rule themselves, joined in the mockery. What could one disgraced human do against the combined might of 9 elder races that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years? Tae soon left the chamber with his head held high. The laughter followed him all the way to his ship. On Earth, in the underground command center beneath the Terran Defense Force headquarters, Admiral G1 watched the broadcast with cold fury in her eyes. Her father had been humiliated, degraded, stripped of everything he had earned through decades of service. The council had made a mockery of human honor and dignity. Minister Dongmin stood beside her, his face expressionless. He was a politician, trained to hide his emotions, but G1 could see the anger in the slight tension of his jaw. Around them, dozens of officers and officials watched the screens in stunned silence. "Minister," G1 said quietly, "we cannot let this stand." Dongmin nodded slowly. He pulled out a secure communication device and typed a short message. Within seconds, it was transmitted to every human fleet in the galaxy. Every military installation, every secret research facility. Protocol retribution is now active. The words appeared on screens across human space. Officers who had been waiting for this moment began moving with purpose. Scientists in hidden laboratories powered up equipment that had been kept dormant for years. Ship captains opened sealed orders. They had been instructed never to read unless this exact phrase was transmitted in the deepest level of the command center, where even most military personnel were not allowed. A meeting was already underway. Dr. B.O. Ra stood before a holographic display, showing complex equations and strange technology blueprints. Around her sat the highest-ranking members of Earth's military and scientific establishment. "The Council believes we are primitive," B.O. Ra said, her voice filled with quiet confidence. "They think our technology is barely adequate for space travel. They have no idea what we have been building for the past 15 years. She manipulated the display, showing designs for weapons and ships that looked nothing like the vessels humanity currently operated. Sleek, advanced, incorporating principles that would make Council scientists weep with envy. "When we first achieved faster-than-light travel," Bora continued, "we discovered ruins on Mars, ancient structures left by a human civilization that existed millions of years ago. A civilization that spanned the galaxy before the current Council species even developed tools." The room remained silent, but everyone present knew this story. It was humanity's greatest secret, shared only with those who had the highest security clearance. "Those ruins contained warnings," Bora said. "Warnings about the Council species. Evidence that they destroyed our ancestors out of fear. They saw how quickly ancient humanity advanced and decided to eliminate the threat before it could challenge their dominance." She pulled up another display, this one showing weapon systems and defensive technologies that seemed almost magical in their capabilities. "We have spent 15 years studying the technology our ancestors left behind. We have rebuilt it, improved it, and prepared for the day when the Council would show their true nature. That day has arrived." Dongmin stepped forward, his expression grim but determined. "General Tae Song's humiliation will not be forgotten, but our response will not be simple revenge. We will expose the Council for what they are. We will liberate the species they have oppressed, and we will show the galaxy that humanity is not some primitive race to be controlled." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each person present. "The Council believes they have defeated us. They believe we will accept subjugation quietly. They are about to learn how wrong they are." G1 smiled coldly. "How long until the Council sends their fleet to occupy human colonies?" "Intelligence suggests 3 weeks," one of the officers reported. "They will send a large force to intimidate us." At least 300 ships. Good, Guan said. That gives us time to prepare the welcome they deserve. Far above, in orbit around Earth, construction began on new vessels. Ships that looked similar to humanity's current fleet, but incorporated technology the Council had never seen. Ships that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. General Taesong's shuttle approached Earth, carrying a man who had been stripped of everything. But as he looked at his home planet growing larger in the viewport, he felt no despair. He knew what was coming. He knew that his humiliation was not an ending, but a beginning. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 weeks passed like the calm before a storm. In the Council chambers, High Chancellor Vex congratulated himself on handling the human problem so efficiently. The other Council members agreed that subjugating Earth would be simple, now that humanity's greatest general had been disgraced. They prepared their occupation fleet with confidence. Expecting little resistance. They had no idea that everything was about to change. Dr. Biora stood in the ancient ruins on Mars, running her hand along symbols carved into red stone millions of years ago. Her team had been studying this site since humanity first arrived on the red planet, but they had kept their disk. Ovaries absolutely secret. What they found here had changed everything humanity thought they knew about themselves. The translation is complete, her assistant said, pointing to a holographic display. This section describes the fall of the ancient human empire. Beora read the glowing text with sadness. Her ancestors had reached incredible heights of technology and civilization. They had spread across thousands of worlds, creating art and science that the current galaxy could not match. They had been peaceful, curious, always seeking to understand rather than conquer. That had been their mistake. The elder races, younger and more primitive back then, had watched ancient humanity's rise with growing fear. They saw how quickly humans learned, how rapidly they advanced, how their creativity and adaptability made them dangerous competitors. So the elder races formed an alliance and attacked without warning. The war had been brutal. Ancient humanity fought to defend themselves, but they were scientists and explorers, not warriors. The elder races were ruthless, destroying entire worlds to eliminate the human threat. In the end, ancient humanity made a choice. Rather than continue a war that would devastate the galaxy, they transcended, leaving the physical universe behind and ascending to a higher plane of existence. But before they left, they hid technology and knowledge across dozens of worlds. Particularly on Mars and Earth, they left behind blueprints and warnings, hoping that if humanity ever evolved again, their descendants would find these gifts and be better prepared to face the elder races. They knew we would return, Beora whispered. They knew humanity would rise again. The technology her team had recovered was extraordinary. Quantum displacement drives that allowed ships to move instantly across vast distances. Zero-point energy generators that provided unlimited power. Nanite swarms that could infiltrate and control any computer system. Weapons that could disable entire fleets without killing a single person. For 15 years, humanity had secretly built ships using this technology while pretending to struggle with basic space travel. Every human vessel the Council had seen was deliberately outdated, a mask to hide their true capabilities. The Council thought humans were barely competent. They had no idea they were facing the inheritors of the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever known. Admiral G1 stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Defiance, watching the Council occupation fleet approach on her sensors. 300 warships, the largest force the Council had assembled in decades. They expected to crush humanity's spirit and force Earth into submission. Status? G1 asked calmly. Enemy fleet entering the Sol system, her tactical officer reported. They are broadcasting demands for our immediate surrender. Ignore them, G1 ordered. Activate the new drive systems. Bring all ships to full combat readiness. Around her, 50 human dreadnoughts powered up. These were not the simple vessels the Council was expecting. Each ship was 5 times more powerful than anything the Council possessed, equipped with technology that would seem like magic to enemy commanders. The Council fleet maintained formation as they approached Earth, confident and arrogant. Their commander, a Vrillix admiral named Kresh, sent repeated surrender demands that went unanswered. He assumed the humans were paralyzed with fear. "Engage," G1 said quietly. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. The human ships simply disappeared. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. Council sensors showed nothing, not even residual energy signatures. Kresh ordered his fleet to scatter, assuming some kind of cloaking technology. But it was already too late. The human vessels reappeared inside the Council formation, having used quantum displacement to instantly teleport to new positions. Before the Council ships could react, electromagnetic pulse weapons fired simultaneously, disabling shields and targeting systems across the entire enemy fleet. Nanite swarms launched from human vessels, invisible clouds of microscopic machines that infiltrated Council ships through exhaust ports and sensor arrays. Within minutes, these swarms seized control of enemy computer systems, shutting down weapons and propulsion while leaving life support intact. Commander Sung Ho led a wing of human fighters that moved so fast they seemed to blur. The quantum drives allowed impossible maneuvers, letting human pilots dodge enemy fire with ease while they're targeting computers, assisted by advanced artificial intelligence, achieved perfect accuracy with every shot. The battle lasted 17 minutes. Not a single human ship was destroyed or even seriously damaged. All 300 Council vessels were disabled, their crews unharmed but helpless, drifting in space like toys abandoned by a child. G1 opened a communication channel to the Council fleet. Your ships will be returned to your home worlds. Your crews will not be harmed. Tell your leaders that humanity does not wish for war, but we will never submit to subjugation. The next fleet you send will face the same fate. On the Council homeworlds, the news hit like an earthquake. The invincible elder races had been defeated by a species they considered primitive. High Chancellor Vex tried to claim the battle was a fluke, a lucky ambush, but nobody believed him. The younger species in the galaxy started asking dangerous questions. Agent Kung Zu had been waiting for this moment. He led humanity's intelligence division, a network of spies and operatives that had infiltrated Council territory over the past 15 years. Now he activated sleeper agents across dozens worlds, releasing information that the Council had desperately tried to hide. Evidence of war crimes appeared on public networks. Records of genocide against developing species. Financial documents showing how the Council exploited resource-rich worlds. Communications between Council members discussing which younger species to suppress before they became threats. The corruption was overwhelming and undeniable. Within days, 43 younger species contacted Earth requesting secret meetings. They had suffered under Council rule for generations and saw humanity's victory as their chance for freedom. Ambassador Heian traveled from world to world, offering alliances without the strings attached that the Council always demanded. We do not want subjects or vassals, she told each species. We want partners. We will share our technology freely and expect nothing in return except friendship and mutual respect. The response was overwhelming. Species that had been crushed under Council taxation found hope. Civilizations that had been prevented from developing advanced technology saw a path forward. Worlds that had been exploited for their resources realized they could be free. The Council watched in horror as their empire began to crumble. Vex called an emergency session and demanded total war against humanity. 6 Council members agreed, but 3 refused. The Christarchs, Valyrians, and Verdantines had seen enough. They understood that the old way of ruling through fear and exploitation was ending. "We will not fight this war," the Christarch representative declared. "Humanity has shown us a better path. We vote to negotiate peace and reform." Vex's mandibles clicked in rage. "Then you are traitors to the Council and will be treated as such." The three species withdrew from the council chambers and immediately contacted Earth requesting alliance. The Galactic Council, which had ruled for 10,000 years without serious challenge, split apart. The elder races who had seemed so powerful and unified were now divided and weakening. General Taesung watched all of this unfold from his home on Earth. The man who had been humiliated before the entire galaxy now sat in his garden, drinking tea and reading reports. His daughter called him daily with updates, but he rarely offered advice. She was doing well without his interference. A message arrived on his personal terminal. It was from Ambassador Heian, requesting that he deliver a galaxy-wide address. The symbolic value would be enormous. The disgraced general speaking to the species that had mocked him. Taesung agreed. Immediately. The broadcast was scheduled for the following day. Representatives from hundreds of species tuned in to watch, curious about what the human would say. Taesung stood before the camera in his full military uniform, his rank insignia restored by unanimous vote of Earth's government. "3 weeks ago, I was humiliated before you," he began calmly. "I was accused of crimes I did not commit. I was stripped of my rank and honor based on fabricated evidence. The Council did this to intimidate humanity and justify our subjugation." He paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. But that humiliation revealed the truth about the Council. It showed that they rule through lies and fear rather than justice and wisdom. It exposed corruption that has existed for millennia. And it united species across the galaxy who are tired of being oppressed. Taesung pulled up holographic displays showing the evidence humanity had gathered. Ancient records from the ruins on Mars appeared, telling the story of humanity's ancestors and how they were destroyed by the Elder. Races out of fear. The Council has always presented themselves as benevolent guides leading younger species toward enlightenment. This is a lie. They are tyrants who destroy any species that might challenge their dominance. They did it to ancient humanity millions of years ago, and they plan to do it to us. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as proof of the ancient genocide was displayed. Council members tried to interrupt the broadcast, but human quantum communication networks were impossible to block. "Humanity offers you a choice," Taesung concluded. "Continue to live under Council rule, exploited and suppressed, or join us in building something better. A galaxy where all species are equal, where technology is shared, where justice is real and not simply a word used to justify tyranny." He looked directly into the camera, his gaze seeming to meet every viewer's eyes. "The Council humiliated me because they thought I was weak. They thought humanity was weak. They learned otherwise. Any species that believes younger civilizations are inferior will learn the same lesson. We are done being victims. The galaxy is changing, and nothing will ever be the same." The broadcast ended. Within hours, 20 more species requested alliance with humanity. The Council's authority continued to crumble as their lies were exposed and their military weakness revealed. Minister Dongmin smiled as he read the reports. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Council had attacked humanity expecting easy victory. Instead, they had triggered their own destruction. Sometimes, he reflected, the best revenge was simply letting your enemies reveal their true nature to the galaxy. And this was only the beginning. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had expected. Within 2 months of General Taesung's broadcast, 60 species had formally allied with humanity. The Council's empire was collapsing like a house built on sand. But High Chancellor Vex was not finished yet. They think they have won, Vex hissed to his remaining council members. They think their technology and their allies make them invincible. We will show them the price of defiance. War Master Krell, a massive Vrillex warrior with scars covering his carapace, clicked his mandibles in agreement. We still command 5,000 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled. Let us target their most valuable colony and show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge the Council. They chose New Sol, humanity's most prosperous colony world. 800 million people live there, humans and friendly aliens working together in harmony. The colony represented everything humanity hoped to build in the galaxy. Destroying it would break human morale and terrify the species considering rebellion. Admiral G1 received intelligence about the attack 3 days before the Council fleet departed. Agent Kyung-Soo's spies had penetrated deep into Council military planning, and they transmitted complete details of Krell's strategy. They are coming with everything they have, Kyung-Soo reported. 5,000 ships from 6 elder species. They planned to bombard New Sol from orbit as a demonstration. G1 studied the tactical displays on her command center screens. 5,000 ships was an enormous force, far larger than what humanity had faced before. But she had been preparing for exactly this scenario. Recall all fleet elements to the Kepler Nebula, she ordered. We will meet them there, away from civilian populations. If they want New Sol, they will have to go through us first. Minister Dongmin questioned the decision. Admiral, you are committing only 200 ships against 5,000. Even with our technological advantage, the odds seem impossible. G1 smiled coldly. The Council still does not understand what they are facing. They believe their previous defeat was a fluke. They are about to learn otherwise. The Kepler Nebula was a vast cloud of gas and dust, beautiful and deadly. Electromagnetic storms raged through the region, interfering with sensors and communications. It was perfect terrain for the kind of warfare humanity had designed their ships to fight. War Master Krell arrived with his massive fleet in perfect formation, expecting to sweep aside the small human force and continue to New Sol. His tactical officers reported only 200 human ships waiting in the nebula. They are fools, Krell declared. They cannot possibly believe such a small force can stop us. Perhaps they hope to delay us while they evacuate their colony. It will not matter. We will destroy them here and then destroy New Sol. The galaxy will learn that the Council's mercy has limits. The Council fleet advanced into the nebula with confidence. Krell had fought in dozens of battles over his long career and had never tasted defeat. He commanded warriors from 6 species, all trained and experienced. The humans were newcomers to galactic warfare, barely a generation removed from fighting among themselves on their single planet. Admiral G1 watched the enemy fleet enter the nebula on her displays. Every ship in her fleet was connected through quantum communication networks that could not be jammed or intercepted. Artificial intelligence systems analyzed enemy formations, in real time, predicting movements before the Council commanders even gave orders. Activate Ghost Protocol, she commanded. Nanite swarms launched from human ships. Invisible clouds spreading through the nebula faster than Council sensors could detect. These microscopic machines had one purpose: infiltrate enemy vessels and transmit everything back to the human fleet. Every communication, every tactical discussion, every order from every captain and admiral within 5 minutes. G1 could hear War Master Krell giving orders to his subordinates. She knew his strategy before his own captains did. The Council fleet had no secrets, no surprises, no chance of tactical advantage. They are planning a pincer movement, she told her commanders. They will try to surround us and use their numerical superiority to overwhelm our defenses. Prepare counterformation Delta 7. The human ships repositioned instantly using quantum displacement drives. One moment they were in the center of the nebula, the next they had teleported to positions that turned the Council's pincer attack into a trap. Council ships found themselves firing at empty space, while human vessels appeared behind them. Commander Sung Ho led the forward assault. His squadron moved through the nebula like ghosts, appearing and disappearing so fast that Council targeting systems could barely track them. Human weapons fired with perfect accuracy, targeting shield generators and weapon systems. Council ships were disabled one after another, left drifting but intact. Krell realized too late that he was not fighting a battle, but walking into an ambush. He tried to adapt, ordering his fleet to scatter and regroup, but the humans anticipated every move. It was like fighting an enemy who could read minds. How are they doing this? Krell demanded of his tactical officers. How do they know our movements before we make them? Nobody had an answer. They did not know about the nanites transmitting their every word back to the human fleet. They did not understand that their entire command structure had been compromised from the moment they entered the nebula. In desperation, Krell ordered his fastest ships to break away and make a run for New Sol. If he could not defeat the human fleet, perhaps he could still destroy their colony. But Admiral G1 had anticipated this move as well. Human ships quantum jumped directly into the path of Krell's runners. The Council vessels found themselves faced with a wall of firepower they could not penetrate. Some tried to fight, others tried to retreat, but the result was always the same. Disabled ships drifting helplessly while their crews remained unharmed. Commander Min Seo led boarding parties onto the largest Council vessels. Human soldiers moved through enemy corridors with practiced efficiency, securing command centers and ensuring no one was hurt. The goal was not to kill, but to capture, to demonstrate that humanity could defeat the Council without becoming murderers. The Battle of Kepler Nebula lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 60% of the Council fleet was disabled and drifting. The remaining ships retreated in chaos, abandoning their disabled comrades in their panic to escape. Human casualties were minimal, just 23 ships with moderate damage, and not a single vessel destroyed. War Master Krell was captured along with hundreds of other Council officers. They were treated well, given comfortable quarters and medical attention for any injuries. This confused many of them. They had expected execution or torture the way the Council handled prisoners. Instead, they received respect and care. Why? Do you treat us kindly? Krell asked Admiral G1 when she visited Cell. We came to destroy your colony. We would have killed hundreds of millions of your people. G1 looked at the old warrior with something like pity. Because we are not like the Council. We fight when we must, but we do not take pleasure in causing suffering. You were following orders from corrupt leaders. That does not make you evil, just misguided. Krell's mandibles clicked slowly, a gesture that indicated deep thought among his species. You truly believe this galaxy can be ruled without fear and intimidation? Not ruled, G1 corrected. Governed with consent and cooperation. Every species equal, every voice heard. It is the way our ancestors lived before the Council destroyed them. It is the way we will live again. The news of the Council's second catastrophic defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Species that had been fence-sitting now rushed to join humanity's alliance. The remaining Council members met in emergency session, their chambers half empty with the defection of the 3 species who had left earlier. High Chancellor Vex was desperate now. His mandibles clicked frantically as he paced before the other Council members. We must negotiate. The humans are too powerful. We cannot defeat them militarily. But the Luminarch representative, blazing with angry energy, refused. We will never bow to these primitives. We ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not surrender to a species that only learned to travel between stars 15 years ago. The council remained divided. 3 members wanted peace. 3 demanded continued war. Vex held the deciding vote, and everyone waited to see what he would choose. Power or survival? Pride or pragmatism? Back on Earth, General Tae-Soon prepared for another broadcast. This time, he did not speak to the galaxy, but to the council specifically. He stood before the camera and looked directly into it, knowing that Vex and the others would be watching. Members of the Galactic Council, he began formally. You have now faced humanity twice in battle. Both times you were defeated decisively. You have lost thousands of ships and the loyalty of dozens of species. Your empire is crumbling. He paused, letting the words sink in. But I take no pleasure in this. I did not want war. I came to your chambers seeking honor and partnership, and you responded with lies and humiliation. You forced this conflict through your arrogance and your fear. Tae-Sung's expression softened slightly. I am an old soldier. I have fought in many battles and seen too much death. I do not want to see more. So I offer you a choice now, the same choice I wish you had offered me. He leaned forward, his voice carrying the weight of absolute sincerity. Surrender. Disband the council. Allow the galaxy to form a new government where all species are equal. Do this, and humanity will guarantee your safety. We will not seek revenge or punishment. We will help you transition to this new era with dignity. Tae-Sung straightened. But if you refuse, if you continue this war, we will not hold back our full capabilities any longer. What you have seen so far is just a fraction of what we can do. We have weapons we have not yet deployed. Technology that would terrify you. We have been merciful because we hope for peace. Do not mistake mercy for weakness. The broadcast ended. In the council chambers, Vex watched the recording 3 times. The human's words were not a threat, but a promise. And unlike the council's promises, Vex suspected this one would be kept. We need to know what other capabilities they possess, the Luminarch representative insisted. We must have spies infiltrate their research facilities. Agent Kyung-soo, monitoring council communications from his office on Earth, almost laughed when he heard this. The council still believed they were dealing with a species they could outmaneuver. They had no idea that human intelligence had been 10 steps ahead of them since the beginning. Dr. Bo-Ra stood in her laboratory, looking at schematics for weapons that had not yet been deployed. Tae-Soon was right. They had been holding back, hoping the council would see reason before humanity needed to reveal its full strength. But if the war continued, these weapons would be deployed. And the galaxy would learn just how advanced ancient humanity had truly been, and how much of that knowledge their descendants had recovered and improved upon. The council had 3 days to respond to Tae-Sung's offer. 3 days to choose between peace and annihilation. 3 days to prove whether they could learn from their mistakes, or whether pride would lead them to destruction. The galaxy held its breath and waited. High Chancellor Vex made his choice, and it was the wrong one. The 3 days passed without any response from the council. General Tae-Sung's offer of peace was ignored, treated with the same contempt the council had shown humanity from the beginning. But Vex was not simply refusing to negotiate. He was preparing humanity's extinction. Deep in the council's most secure military facility, technicians worked around the clock, preparing 12 missiles. These were not ordinary weapons. They were planet killers, banned by galactic law for 3,000 years after they had been used to destroy an entire civilization. Each missile contained enough destructive power to crack a world's crust and boil away its atmosphere. Vex had decided that if he could not control humanity, he would eliminate them completely. Earth would be destroyed, along with humanity's major colonies. Without a home world, the human species would scatter and eventually fade away. The problem would be solved permanently. "This is madness," protested one of the council members, a Valyrian whose methane-based biology made her voice sound like wind through caves. "Using planet killers violates every law we have established. The other species will never forgive us." Vex's mandibles clicked dismissively. "The other species will fall in line once the humans are gone. Fear will return, and with it, order. We may lose some allies temporarily, but in a generation, everyone will forget the humans ever existed." The strike fleet prepared to launch in absolute secrecy. They would use an ancient smuggler route through dark space, a region of the galaxy where FTL sensors did not work properly. This would allow them to approach Earth undetected and launch their missiles before humanity could respond. It was a perfect plan. Except that Agent Kung Su had known about it for 2 weeks, that human intelligence had infiltrated every level of council government. The technician who helped program the missiles? One of Kung Su's agents. The navigator who plotted the route through dark space? Also working for humanity. Even the officer who commanded Vex's personal security detail was secretly transmitting information to Earth. Admiral G1 watched the Council strike fleet depart on her monitors. 12 ships carrying 12 planet killers, following a route they believed was secret. She let them travel for 3 days, getting closer to Earth, believing their plan was working. "They are approaching the Sol system," her tactical officer reported. "They will emerge from dark space in 6 hours. "Excellent," G1 said calmly. "Recall all fleet elements to Earth. Activate the Mars defense grid, and send a message to my father. Tell him it is time." General Taesung received the message while working in his garden. He read it twice, nodded slowly, and changed into his full military uniform. This would be his last battle, he suspected. Win or lose. After today, the galaxy would never see conflict quite like this again. The Council strike fleet emerged from dark space at the edge of the Sol system, exactly where G1 expected them. Their sensors immediately detected an unusual amount of activity. Human ships were everywhere, far more than intelligence reports had suggested existed. The strike fleet commander, a Luminarch named Redix, felt the first touch of doubt. This does not feel right. They should not have this many vessels. But orders were orders. Radix commanded his ships forward, planet killer missiles armed and ready. The plan was simple. Get within firing range, launch all 12 missiles simultaneously, and retreat before human forces could respond. Earth would be destroyed in minutes. They never got the chance. As the Council fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, space itself seemed to come alive. Thousands of satellites hidden in orbit around the red planet activated simultaneously, generating an energy field that expanded to encompass the entire inner solar system. It was a shield unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Powered by ancient technology that Dr. Buora's team had spent years rebuilding, the planet killer missiles, designed to penetrate any known defensive system, were useless against this networked shield. They would not even reach Earth's orbit. Radix stared at his displays in disbelief. "What is that?" "That is impossible. No shield can cover an entire star system." "It is not just a shield," one of his officers whispered. "Look at the energy readings. That is ancient technology. Technology that should not exist anymore." Before Radix could process this information, human ships appeared. Not dozens, hundreds. The entire Terran Defense Force had been waiting, hidden throughout the system, ready to spring their trap, and leading them was General Taesung himself, commanding a new flagship called the Indomitable. At 67 years old, stripped of honors and publicly humiliated just months before, he now led humanity's defense against extinction. "Attention Council vessels." Taesung's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "You came here to commit genocide, to murder billions of innocent people. This will not be permitted. Radix tried to order a retreat, but human ships had already surrounded his fleet using quantum displacement. There was no escape route, no way out. A council fleet was trapped. Prepare for boarding operations, Tae-sung ordered calmly. What followed was not so much a battle as a systematic dismantling of the enemy fleet. Human forces, led by Commander Minseo's Special Operations Teams, boarded every council vessel within 4 hours. The enemy crews, already demoralized by the impossible shield and overwhelming human response, surrendered quickly. Not a single council ship escaped. Not one missile was fired. The entire strike fleet was captured intact, along with all 12 planet-killer weapons. Minister Dong-min made sure that footage of the captured fleet was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species saw the Council's most forbidden weapons, saw proof that the elder races were willing to commit genocide to maintain their power. The reaction was immediate and devastating. The 3 Council species that had remained neutral immediately condemned the attempted attack. The Valyrians, whose representative had protested the plan from the beginning, formally withdrew from the Council. The Morphians and several others announced they would no longer follow Council directives. Within days, only the Vrilics and Luminarchs remained loyal to Vex. His empire had crumbled to a lost nothing, held together only by fear and desperation. Ambassador Heian traveled to the Valyrian homeworld to meet with their leaders. She arrived not on a warship, but on a simple diplomatic vessel, accompanied only by a small staff. It was a gesture of trust that the Valyrians deeply appreciated. "We are ashamed," the Valyrian Prime Minister said through a translator that made her methane-based voice understandable. "Our species was part of the Council that tried to destroy your home world. We should have opposed this more strongly." Heian shook her head gently. "You did oppose it, and you withdrew from the Council when they refused to listen. That took courage. We do not hold your entire species responsible for Vex's crimes. What will you do now?" The Prime Minister asked. "Will you destroy the remaining Council species? Take revenge for what they tried to do?" It was the question everyone in the galaxy was asking. Humanity had the power now. They could crush the remaining Council forces easily. Many species expected them to do exactly that. Heian's answer would shape the galaxy's future. "We will do what we said from the beginning," she replied. "We will build something better. A government where all species are equal, where disputes are resolved through discussion rather than warfare, where technology is shared and younger civilizations are helped rather than exploited." She pulled up holographic displays showing detailed plans for what humanity was calling the new Galactic Commonwealth. Every species would have equal representation, regardless of their age or technological level. Decisions would require majority consensus. Military force could only be used defensively or with overwhelming support. Technology would be shared freely, but safeguards would prevent any single species from achieving overwhelming military superiority. "This includes humanity," Heian emphasized. "We will voluntarily limit our own military to ensure we cannot dominate others. We will share the ancient technology we recovered, but we will also share the safeguards that prevent it from being weaponized beyond certain limits." The Valyrian Prime Minister studied the plans carefully. "You are serious. You truly intend to give up the power you have earned. Power that cannot be challenged always becomes corrupt," Heian said quietly. "The Council proved that. We will not repeat their mistakes." Back on Earth, High Chancellor Vex was brought before a tribunal. Not the old Galactic Council, but a new assembly composed of representatives from 80 species. They gathered in a simple chamber with no elevated thrones, no symbols of dominance. Everyone sat at the same level, equal in voice and vote. General Tae-sung was asked to deliver testimony about the original humiliation and the events that followed. He stood before the assembly in his uniform, speaking calmly and without anger. High Chancellor Vex fabricated evidence to frame me for war crimes I did not commit. He stripped me of my rank and honor to intimidate humanity into accepting subjugation. When peaceful methods failed, he attempted genocide against my species using forbidden weapons. Tae Soong paused, looking directly at Vex, who stood in a containment field surrounded by guards. I do not hate him. I pity him. He was trapped in an old way of thinking where power meant everything and equality meant nothing. He could not imagine a galaxy where species cooperated as partners rather than as masters and subjects. The evidence against Vex was overwhelming. Dozens of witnesses testified. Records were examined. The fabricated footage used to frame Tae Soong was proven false beyond any doubt. The order to deploy planet killers was traced directly to Vex's personal authorization. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty of war crimes, attempted genocide, and crimes against sapient species. The sentence was life imprisonment on a neutral world, isolated but treated humanely. Some wanted execution, but the new Commonwealth's first act was to ban capital punishment entirely. As Vex was led away, he looked at General Tae Soong one last time. You said I would regret that day. You were right. Tae Soong nodded slowly. I wish it had not come to this. If you had simply treated us with respect from the beginning, none of this would have been necessary. With Vex removed from power, the remaining loyal council forces collapsed. The Luminarchs negotiated a peaceful surrender. The Vrilics, leaderless and demoralized, requested terms. Within weeks, the old Galactic Council ceased to exist entirely. In its place, the new Galactic Commonwealth was established. The first vote was held in the same Grand Assembly Hall where Tae Soong had been humiliated. But the hall had been completely redesigned. No more elevated thrones. No more symbols of elder race superiority. Just a circular chamber where every species met as equals. 87 species ratified the Commonwealth Charter. 3 refused to join. Ancient powers who could not accept equality with species they considered inferior. They were allowed to remain independent but isolated, their territories quarantined by mutual agreement. General Tae Soong stood at the signing ceremony, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. Many asked for his advice in building their new defensive forces. The elder races who had mocked him now sought his wisdom. As he signed humanity's ratification document, Tae Soong reflected on his promise to the council. You will regret this day. They had indeed regretted it, though not in the way they feared. Their humiliation of one general had exposed their corruption and united the galaxy against them. Sometimes, he thought, the greatest victories come from your enemy's mistakes rather than your own strength. The council had defeated themselves through their arrogance. Humanity had simply helped the galaxy realize it deserved better. The old order was dead. A new era had begun, and the future looked brighter than anyone had dared to hope. 5 years had passed since the fall of the old Galactic Council. The galaxy had transformed in ways that even the most optimistic dreamers had not imagined possible. The new Galactic Commonwealth brought prosperity and peace to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. General Tae Soong walked through the rebuilt Grand Assembly Hall. His pace slower now at 72 years old, but his mind still sharp. He no longer commanded fleets or directed military operations. After helping establish the Commonwealth's defense structure, he had retired from active service to take a position as Secretary of Defense. Advising rather than commanding, the hall looked completely different from the place where he had been humiliated. Where once there had been elevated thrones for elder races looking down on lesser species, now there was a circular arrangement of seats where representatives from 112 species met as equals. The crystal walls were decorated with symbols from every member civilization, a beautiful mosaic celebrating diversity rather than dominance. Secretary Tae Soong called a voice from behind him. He turned to see Ambassador Hai-In approaching with a younger human woman. "I would like you to meet Captain Dae-Yoon. She recently distinguished herself in the border incident with the sovereignty." Tae-Sung studied the young officer with interest. Dae-Yoon was his granddaughter, Ji-Won's daughter, though he tried not to show favoritism in official settings. She had inherited her mother's tactical brilliance and her grandfather's calm demeanor under pressure. "I read your report on the engagement," Tae-Sung said. "You handled the situation well. Defending the outpost without escalating into full conflict showed good judgment." Dae-Yoon smiled, though Tae-Sung could see nervousness in her eyes. Meeting her grandfather in his official capacity always made her slightly uncomfortable. "Thank you, sir." The sovereignty ships retreated once they realized we would not provoke them into battle. This mention of the sovereignty reminded Tae-Sung that not everything in the galaxy had become peaceful. When the Commonwealth was established, 3 species had refused to join. The Vrilix remnants who still believed in elder race superiority, the Luminarch isolationists who rejected cooperation with younger species, and the enigmatic phase wraiths who simply did not trust any large government. These 3 species had formed their own alliance in the outer regions of the galaxy, calling themselves the Sovereignty. They maintained strict borders and made no secret of their contempt for the Commonwealth's principles. Occasional incidents occurred along the border, usually resolved through diplomatic means. But tensions remained high. Dr. Bo-Ora's research team had continued their work studying the ancient human ruins on Mars. 5 years of intensive investigation had revealed something extraordinary. The ancient humans had not died out as initially believed. They had achieved what the runes called transcendence, leaving the physical universe behind to exist on a higher plane of reality. It is difficult to explain in simple terms. Bo-Ora told a gathering of Commonwealth scientists from 40 different species. Our ancestors evolved beyond the need for physical bodies. They became beings of pure consciousness, existing in dimensions we can barely comprehend. A Christarch scientist, its silicon-based body gleaming under the laboratory lights, asked the obvious question: "Can we achieve this transcendence as well?" Bo-Ora nodded slowly. "The ruins suggest that any sufficiently advanced civilization can follow this path. It requires not just technological advancement, but also social and philosophical development. Our ancestors transcended only after they had eliminated war, poverty, and exploitation from their society." The implications were staggering. The ancient humans had left behind not just technology, but a roadmap to evolution itself. The goal was no longer just building a better society, but preparing for the next stage of existence. Admiral Ji-Won commanded the Commonwealth Combined Fleet from her flagship, a vessel that incorporated technology from 30 different species. Her crew was equally diverse, humans working alongside Valyrians, Christarchs coordinating with Morphians, former council species and former subject species, serving together as equals. She was reviewing patrol reports when the alert came through. Unknown contacts had been detected at the edge of Commonwealth space. Multiple ships, large ones, using technology that matched nothing in their databases. "Unknown vessels," she said calmly. "Transmit standard greeting on all frequencies. Let them know they have entered Commonwealth territory and request identification." The response was immediate and terrifying. The unknown ships opened fire on the patrol vessels without warning, destroying 2 before the others could retreat. The weapons they used were devastating, tearing through shields and armor like paper. Emergency meetings were called across the Commonwealth. Representatives gathered virtually, appearing as holograms in the assembly hall. The mood was grim as sensor data was analyzed. "We are calling them Devourers," Minister Dongmin explained, using a holographic display to show what little information had been gathered. "They appear to be a hive mind species. Each ship is not crude, but is the creature itself. Ships and organisms are one and the same. Agent Kung Su, now running Commonwealth intelligence, provided additional details. They consume entire worlds to fuel their expansion, strip mining planets down to the core, processing all matter into more ships. They are completely ruthless and show no interest in communication. A Valyrian representative expressed what everyone was thinking. How many of them are there? Kyung Su's expression was grave. Our scouts identified at least 200 vessels in the initial contact, but long-range sensors suggest thousands more behind them. This may not be an invasion force. This may be their entire civilization, moving through the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. The news sent shockwaves through Commonwealth space. For 5 years, they had enjoyed peace and prosperity. Now they faced an existential threat that made the old Council conflicts seem trivial by comparison. And then something unexpected happened. The sovereignty contacted the Commonwealth for the first time since their formation. The message was brief and to the point. The Devourers were approaching sovereignty territory as well. They proposed a temporary alliance to face the common threat. Some Commonwealth members wanted to refuse. The sovereignty had rejected everything the Commonwealth represented. They had launched provocations along the border. Why should they receive help now? General Tae-sung was asked to address the assembly and provide his opinion. He stood before the gathered representatives, thinking carefully about his words. 5 years ago, he began, we defeated the old council not through vengeance, but through demonstrating a better way. We showed the galaxy that cooperation was stronger than domination. That respect was more powerful than fear. He paused, looking at the faces and bodies of representatives from species as diverse as the stars themselves. If we refuse to help the sovereignty now, we prove that our principles only apply when convenient. We become hypocrites, no better than the council we replaced. The sovereignty rejected our alliance, but that does not mean we should abandon them to extinction. His words sparked debate that lasted for hours. Finally, a vote was called. By a margin of 78 to 34, the Commonwealth agreed to aid the sovereignty with no conditions attached. Admiral G1 led the Commonwealth fleet to the border where sovereignty forces were gathering. The meeting of the two fleets was tense. Sovereignty officers who had spent 5 years condemning the Commonwealth now found themselves dependent on it. The Devourer Advance Fleet arrived 3 days later. 200 massive bioships, each one a living organism capable of tearing apart planets. They moved with disturbing coordination, the hive mind controlling them with perfect efficiency. The combined Commonwealth Sovereignty Fleet numbered 300 ships. Superior numbers, but facing an enemy whose capabilities were largely unknown. G1 knew that this battle would determine not just the survival of the Commonwealth, but possibly of all galactic civilization. All ships, she broadcast to the fleet. This is Admiral G1. We face an enemy unlike any we have encountered. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They simply consume and multiply. Our goal is to drive them back and contain them, to protect the billions of lives behind us. The battle began as the Devourers entered weapons range. Their bioweapons were terrifyingly effective, firing projectiles that burrowed through shields and dissolved armor. But Commonwealth technology, refined over 5 years and incorporating innovations from dozens of species, proved equally formidable. Human quantum displacement drives allowed ships to dodge attacks that would have been unavoidable with conventional propulsion. Crystarch energy shields, enhanced with Valyrian mathematical precision, absorbed more damage than any single species technology could withstand. Morphian tactical coordination, combined with human AI predictions, created battle plans that adapted in real time to enemy movements. But the real turning point came from an unexpected source. Sovereignty forces, fighting alongside their former rivals, began sharing their own technological innovations. The Luminarchs possessed energy weapons that proved particularly effective against the biological nature of the Devourers. The phase wraiths had developed a form of dimensional shifting that allowed ships to phase through enemy attacks. Commander Min Seo led a desperate boarding operation onto one of the largest Devourer ships. Her team, composed of soldiers from 8 different species, including several from the Sovereignty, fought through biological horrors that defied description. The interior of the ship was alive, walls pulsing like organs, corridors that could seal shut like sphincters. "This is unlike anything I have ever seen," one of her Vrilix soldiers said, his mandibles clicking nervously. "It is not a ship. It is a creature that happens to travel through space." They reached what seemed to be the central processing node, a massive brain-like structure that coordinated the ship's functions. Min Seo planted a quantum disruptor, a device developed by Dr. Bu Ora's team specifically for this mission. When it activated, it sent cascading disruptions through the hive mind's neural network. The effect was immediate. The Devourer ship began convulsing, its movements becoming erratic. The disruption spread to nearby ships through the hive mind connection, causing confusion and disorganization in their formations. "This is our chance," He-1 ordered. "All ships concentrate fire on the disrupted vessels. Drive them back." The combined fleet pressed their advantage. Commonwealth and Sovereignty ships working together with a coordination that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. Former enemies covering each other's flanks, sharing targeting data, fighting side by side because the alternative was extinction for everyone. When Min Seo's team was trapped by Devourer organisms converging on their position, it was Sovereignty soldiers who broke through to rescue them. A squad of Vrilix warriors fought with savage efficiency, their natural combat abilities enhanced by weapons provided by the Commonwealth. "Why did you help us?" Min Seo asked the Vrilix, squad leader as they evacuated Dot. The warrior's mandibles clicked in what she had learned was a gesture of respect. "Because you would have done the same for us." That is what soldiers do. The battle lasted 18 hours. In the end, the Devourer fleet was forced to retreat, leaving behind 37 destroyed ships. The Commonwealth Sovereignty forces had won, but at significant cost. 49 ships had been lost, their crews numbering in the thousands. But victory in battle was not the end. The Devourers had been driven back, but not eliminated. They remained a threat that would require constant vigilance. Dr. Boora's team developed technology to create a barrier at the edge of explored space. A network of quantum disruption satellites that prevented the Devourers from accessing FTL travel within their effective range. It was not a perfect solution, but it contained the threat and gave the galaxy time to repair better defenses. More importantly, it demonstrated that the Devourers could be defeated through cooperation and innovation. In the aftermath of the battle, 2 of the 3 Sovereignty species petitioned to join the Commonwealth. The Vrilix remnants, led by younger members who had never supported the old hierarchy, formally apologized for their species' crimes under the Council. They asked for forgiveness and for the chance to prove they had changed. The Luminarchs, witnessing the strength that came from unity, abandoned their isolationism. They brought with them scientific knowledge that had been developed independently over 5 years. Innovations that would benefit everyone. Only the phase wraiths chose to remain separate, though even they signed a non-aggression pact and opened limited trade relations. Their representative explained that their species simply preferred independence, but they now respected the Commonwealth's approach and would support it when necessary. The final ceremony took place on Mars, at the ancient ruins where humanity had first discovered their heritage. A memorial was unveiled honoring those who had died fighting the Devourers, but also commemorating the victims of the old Council's tyranny and the ancient humans whose destruction had started everything. General Tae Soon gave a speech that was broadcast across the entire galaxy. He stood before the memorial, an old man now but still commanding respect and attention from every species. "We have come far in 5 years," he began. "From a galaxy divided by fear and exploitation to a commonwealth united by cooperation and respect. We have faced challenges that would have destroyed the old order, but we survived because we stand together." He gestured to the ruins behind him. "Our ancestors achieved greatness through their curiosity, creativity, and compassion. They were destroyed by those who feared progress and change. But they left us gifts, technology, knowledge, and most importantly, a reminder of what we can become if we choose cooperation over conflict." Tae-sung's voice grew stronger despite his age. "I was humiliated in this galaxy 5 years ago, stripped of honor, accused of crimes I did not commit. The Council believed they were breaking human spirit. Instead, they revealed their own corruption and united species who had been oppressed for millennia." He smiled, looking directly into the camera. "I said they would regret that day. They did, but not because we crushed them. Because we showed the galaxy a better way. We proved that strength comes not from domination, but from diversity. That wisdom is found not in age, but in openness to new ideas. That progress requires not hierarchy, but equality." Captain Dayun stood near her grandfather, watching him deliver what she suspected would be his final public speech. At 27 years old, she represented the next generation, those who had grown up in the Commonwealth and knew nothing of the old Council's tyranny except through history lessons. After the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, Dayun walked with her grandfather through the ruins. The ancient symbols carved into red stone seemed to glow in the Martian sunset. "Do you ever regret how it started?" she asked. "That humiliation before the Council?" Tae-sung was quiet for a moment, considering the question. "No," he finally said. "That humiliation revealed who they truly were, and it showed us who we needed to be. Sometimes our worst moments lead to our best outcomes." He pointed to the ruins around them. "Our ancestors transcended this universe by first building a perfect society. We are on that same path now. The Commonwealth is not perfect, but it is better than what came before. Each generation will improve it further, until perhaps one day we too will be ready for transcendence." "Do you think we will make it?" Dayun asked. "Will we truly follow in our ancestors' footsteps?" Tae-sung smiled. "I believe we will. Not in my lifetime, perhaps not even in yours. But I have seen this galaxy transform from tyranny to cooperation in just 5 years. If we can change that much that quickly, imagine what we might achieve in a century or a millennium." Far above them, in orbit around Mars, human exploration vessels were preparing for departure. They would follow the path left by ancient humanity, seeking clues about transcendence and what might lie beyond the physical universe. The ships were crewed by volunteers from 40 different species, all eager to explore the unknown together. The old Galactic Council had tried to keep species divided and weak. They had humiliated humanity to maintain their dominance. Instead, they had sparked a revolution that united the galaxy and opened pathways to evolution itself. General Tae-sung looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere up there, ancient humans existed in forms beyond comprehension. They had left behind a legacy, and their descendants had proven worthy of it. Not through conquest or domination, but through choosing cooperation, equality, and peace, the galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in dimensions beyond normal space, Tae-sung liked to imagine that ancient humans were watching their descendants with pride, seeing that the lessons they left behind had not been forgotten. Humanity had struck back against those who humiliated them, not with weapons, but with vision, not with vengeance, but with wisdom. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. The future was bright. The possibilities were endless. And the journey was just beginning.